We're starting off 0-2 weather-wise for the month of May. Thank you for being here and starting off this week and pretty much this month with us. Glad as always to have you with us, and glad to hear that for all of the schools that were hosting prom this weekend that it went so well. I don't know of any major complications or incidents or accidents or anything of that nature, but of course I think the rain might have slowed things down a bit as far as the pace is concerned, but nevertheless we understand that everyone had from what I know of, a very safe and joyous prom season. We're certainly glad and fortunate for that. Tonight's headlines will include some materials, some statements to federal authorities that are shedding light on the case that they claim to have against several individuals in regards to vote buying and election fraud here in Magoffin County. We'll go through it as much as time will allow in just a few moments. And I'm also under the gun time-wise this evening, a host of auto accidents, some weather-related stories, and other things that we'll try to bring you all in an effort to get it into tonight's program. We'll begin our top headline in just a few moments. Weather-wise, a flood warning in effect. Turn around, don't drown. Please heed that advice and that warning, because we have seen a lot of roads covers, certainly here in Magoffin County. Most of the usual suspects, if you will, but in some areas a little higher than normal, as we've seen considerable rainfall. Flood warning in effect, a flood advisory also, of course, in effect, a flash flood watch in effect through tomorrow morning, a severe thunderstorm watch in effect through 10 o'clock tonight. More on your local forecast, current observations, and more. With temperatures, we've got a daytime high in the 50s this forecast period, so there are some ups and downs to your forecast. We'll go ahead and start with our top story this evening in just a few seconds, right after a brief break about new material that has been released in regards to the FBI investigation into vote buying, election fraud, and conspiracy here in Magoffin County. We'll share with you that as much as we can information right after this. To get high-speed internet on their state-of-the-art fiber optic network for all of your home and business solutions, or to watch TV without a contract on over 200 digital channels with superb quality, or stay connected with family and friends with 24/7 telephone service you can always depend on, contact Foothills Broadband today. Or just click on their link to the right to find out how they're working to provide the latest in communications at affordable prices with exceptional service at Foothills Broadband. Now for one of our top stories this evening, it pertains to new material that's been released in records pertaining to the ongoing FBI investigation into vote buying, election fraud, and conspiracy charges here in Magoffin County, now against 4 people. The details are contained in statements given to the FBI by a former co-defendant in the case. Now, at this time, we need to stress that these statements are accusations made by an individual that claims to have been included in them and in election fraud for years in Magoffin County. While these statements, however, are a part of official record, we can't confirm them to be fact at this time. However, at least some of, if not all of the information was apparently enough for authorities to cut Scotty McCarty, the before-mentioned former co-defendant, a plea deal, as he has now been cut or severed from the case and has agreed to testify against the others in exchange for a lesser charge. It's his testimony or statements to federal authorities that was released. We're still trying to trace down exactly why or how that information was made public, but it was so on Friday evening. He begins early with McCarty saying that he was significantly involved with individuals buying votes during the 2010 and 2014 elections, and that he considered himself in the fold with Gary Rooster Reisner, Charles Doc Harden, and Larry Shepard, and that Reisner visited McCarty at his home prior to the 2014 primary, and McCarty asked Reisner how everything was looking regarding the election. Reisner advised they had enough gravel to bury the county, and that the gravel was being stored at Johnny Green's residence and that it was intended for private driveways. McCarty says that he assisted personally 2 people to vote during the 2014 primary election because he wanted them to vote for H.B. Arnott. McCarty knew that if he didn't assist them, Larry Shepard would be able to change their vote because he'd done so in past elections. He stated that during the 2010 election, Charles Doc Harden, Mike Prater, Jerry Helton, Larry Shepard, and Rooster Reisner all plotted on where to put the voting machines at the Bloomington precinct so they could control the situation, and that they looked for the young and the very old to work the polls, individuals they handpicked and supported their candidates. In the 2010 election, he says that Charles Harden was at a meeting with Randy Salyers, Gary Rooster Reisner and McCarty himself, and that Rooster Reisner told McCarty that he'd received money to buy votes from Charles Hardin, and that Randy Salyer told McCarty that he'd purchased 200 to 300 votes during the absentee ballot process. McCarty told investigators about a meeting before the 2010 elections in which Gary Reisner, Larry Shepard, Jerry Helton, and McCarty all met at Randy Salyer's home, where Larry Shepard had a list of potential election board members that had supported Charles Hardin and Renee Shepard on the ballot. McCarty claims that during that meeting, Randy Salyer opened up his gun safe, and inside there was some $50,000 to $60,000 in $50 bills. McCarty said he was told that Gary Reisner had put in $2,000 of the money, Charles Hardin had put in $30,000, and that the Shepards had put in $10,000. McCarty later claims that prior to the 2010 election, Charles Hardin picked up McCarty and spoke to another individual about graveling private driveways. McCarty claims that Hardin told an Evan Green to pick up the gravel at the Eagle Stone Quarry, that Hardin had an account set there in his name, and that he was simply to tell those individuals at the quarry that the gravel was for Charles Hardin, and he told Green to get gas and food for free at the Elk Creek BP while he was hauling the gravel, and that Rooster Reisner and or Charles Hardin told Green the addresses to deliver the gravel to, and that McCarty rode in the truck with him at some times and told the people to vote for Hardin. McCarty also claims that in 2010 he asked Charles Hardin to give McCarty's cousin a job at the community center, to which Hardin agreed, but after the election, Hardin and Gary Rooster Reisner said they had to give the job to Susie Salyer, wife of Randy Salyer, because Charles Hardin owed Randy Salyer his life for going to prison for him for vote buying in 2010. And in May of 2010 still, McCarty claims that someone had called him with 8 voters, and that Randy Salyer and Larry Shepard told McCarty to bring them to the courthouse to vote, and that McCarty and Larry assisted them to vote, and that no assistance forms were filled out for the voters even though they were assisted, and Randy Salyer gave McCarty $400 to be given to the 8 voters. He claims that during the 2010 elections at the Carty Branch precinct, Chester Howard, member of the fire department, along with Charles Hardin, Gary Reisner, Larry Shepard, and Randy Salyer, all had a plan to pull a fire truck in front of the voting machines, and that blue and red tickets were used to identify voters getting paid. A voter, he says, would arrive with a blue ticket if they were going to be paid for their vote. If they voted as they were instructed, they were then given a red ticket, and they would take that red ticket back to whoever gave them the blue ticket to get their $50. In late 2013 or January of the following year, McCarty says that he was with Larry Shepard and Gary Rooster Reisner when they discussed how to be more careful about not leaving a paper trail when buying votes. They agreed to use throwaway cellular telephones to communicate. That meeting, he claimed, happened at the county clerk's office, and the phones were used by Larry Shepard to confirm with Gary Rooster Reisner that a person had voted the correct way, so Gary could then pay them for their vote. McCarty claims to have been at a meeting in early 2013 when Gary Rooster Reisner was at a garage on McCarty's property with Charles Hardin and Randall Hardin, who came later, and that Charles Hardin spoke of building a community center for the county, but Gary Reisner disagreed, believing that blacktopping side roads would get more votes. There's only 2 portions of the several-page statement that are blacked out, one being the personal information, Social Security number, date of birth for Scotty McCarty, and the other comes right after the mentioning of a black Mack truck and its potential location. More on that in a moment. Some of McCarty's statement was similar to some testimony that came out in Magoffin County Circuit Court, McCarty claiming that Lorraine Holbrook had approached 2 renters on her property, Lisa and Ricky Romaine, asking them to vote for Charles Hardin and then letting Larry Shepard vote for them. McCarty recalls that Holbrook contacted Lisa and demanded her vote immediately, and that Holbrook was told that they had already voted. McCarty believed that she then called Larry Shepard to confirm the 2 hadn't voted, and then she became very angry and caused the Romaines to move from her trailer park. McCarty claims to own a building in downtown Sagersville on West Maple Street that he was leasing at the time to the Home Health Services, but that lease was going to expire in June of 2014. In late March or early April of 2014, he says that Jerry Helton called McCarty and said that Hardin wanted to talk with McCarty, and that he met with Charles Hardin and Randall Hardin, and Charles Hardin offered to put the county water district in McCarty's building at a rate of $1,000 per month if McCarty put a Charles Hardin political sign on his property. McCarty says he didn't put the sign up, and therefore Charles Hardin didn't put the water district in his building. And McCarty also recalled that he was told that Gary Rooster Reisner was upset about a male who asked him for money, and that he was told Gary Reisner put that male in one of his barn stalls, started up a chainsaw, and then made the male strip his clothes off to prove that he was not wearing a recording device. And Gary Rooster Reisner told McCarty that he is not going to the penitentiary by himself. Now, in reference to the only two areas that are blacked out, one was the personal information of Mr. McCarty, that being Social Security number, date of birth, things of that nature. The other portion came directly after the mention of a Mack truck that was owned by the county. Now, sources in regards to the Mack truck tell me that that's also not just part of the FBI investigation that's ongoing, but also perhaps a pivotal part of the upcoming county audit, where the truck was said to have been found purchased by the county for somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 to $35,000, but that there was no evidence of the vehicle being insured, or no evidence that the vehicle still exists, as it could not be found by auditors. We know that we are told by sources on condition of anonymity that that truck is part of both the audit and the, once again, ongoing FBI investigation. I'll have more headlines in just a second. While there were some water-related calls of emergency over the weekend, roads were relatively dry Saturday morning when this accident happened, a single vehicle collision. You can see where the white Chevrolet Blazer, actually I believe it's an Oldsmobile Bravada, made impact with the culvert there. The Minix Curve is where this happened, as we commonly refer to there on Route 7. We're told that a male driver was out of the vehicle upon arrival of emergency personnel and then was taken from the scene from a family member and suffered minor, if any, injuries as a result of the crash. But the rains were certainly a factor over the course of the weekend. This is some video brought into us. This is on 867 off of Lakeville. A call from the Howard Branch area. A resident there in need of medical attention was blocked in on the Lakeville and Oakley sides. The McGoffin County Rescue Squad says that the water levels had receded just enough to allow their water rescue vehicle to go through the water and navigate safely through and to the other side. They were able to retrieve the female, said to be in her 80s, and then bring her out to the TranStar ambulance service, who then transported her onto an area hospital. This was actually this morning before daylight, and this believed to be water related. A tree high up on the bank. Well, the soil eroded enough underneath it due to all the heavy rain, and came crashing down on some utility lines. This is actually the scene after daylight. It happened just before. Fortunately, classes in McGoffin County on a 2-hour delay, so roads weren't as busy as they normally would be at the 6 o'clock hour. This on Route 2019 near Corbreed Branch. Foothills and AEP utility lines were affected. Power was out from this area just about back to the BP station on 0460. McGoffin County Rescue Squad remained on scene for about 2 hours until representatives of AEP did come on site and conducted traffic control, and then began to repair the down pole and the respective lines attached thereto. I came up on, I should say, an auto accident Friday evening very near the W.R. Castle Fire Department. I have some video and footage, however, still waiting for some details. We do know that it was a serious injury accident, possibly one person airlifted. I'm awaiting further input from the authorities who responded to the crash. But we have to make note of a Moorhead graduate, a recent graduate of Moorhead State University, who was back in town in Moorhead over the weekend for an annual gala. 23-year-old Sarah Ruth Cottle, who was killed on Highway 32 very near the Moorhead city limit area. Reports are that there was a Dodge Durango that you can see in the picture that is courtesy from the Trailblazer that crossed the line and struck Cottle, who was pronounced dead at the scene. Reported there were 2 occupants inside the Durango, the driver and a passenger, who were taken ultimately, I think, to the UK hospital for their injuries. No word on their condition. But the 23-year-old was pronounced dead at the scene. A recent graduate, once again, back in town for the annual event and celebration. Authorities say that it is under investigation, but that the poor conditions, including the rainfall, but also alcohol, may be suspected factors in the crash, and that criminal charges are being considered and possibly pending. Now, we've got quite a bit to talk about in your Licking Valley forecast and current observations. And there you see local Doppler radar, and that for around the region and eastern Kentucky as a whole. Showers still to come, still moving on off to the north and east. And for the month, we have rainfall totals because we're just less than 48 hours into the month of May. Right here at the newsroom, I've got 2.78 inches since May started yesterday, so keep that in mind. And we're still adding, we'll break, I believe, the 3-inch threshold for total rainfall amounts for the first 2 days of the 5th month, without a doubt. And some folks in some areas indeed have picked up more than that for rain totals. And of course, it has resulted in a lot of flooding, most definitely in those predominant low-lying areas in Montgomery County that many residents are used to. But as of right now, water levels are still high and could even be on the increase at this hour due to recent rainfall, the likes of which we don't have in the forecast. But that's not to say that we don't have any rain in the forecast. Therefore, we have a flash flood warning in effect until 7:15. It will expire. A flood advisory, of course, remains in effect thereafter throughout much of the overnight. And speaking of overnight, while we see showers and possibly thunderstorms up until about 11 and then waning thereafter, we'll see a 54-degree nighttime low tonight. And we'll, of course, see cloudy skies. And we'll see some cooler air for days on end on the back side of all of this. In fact, for your Tuesday, we've got a 30% chance of some showers, but mostly cloudy and 68. Now, that 30% chance is start to finish, daylight till dark tomorrow. Nothing like today has been, but we do have a chance of some showers that will also increase as we have another cold front coming in midweek, 65 and 40 for Wednesday's respective high and low, a chance of showers before 3, and then a chance of some showers and thunderstorms possibly thereafter. Rain chances will stick right at 60% across the board. Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night, into your Thursday, they finally decrease just a bit to 40%. That is cloudy skies, and check it out, not a misprint, 56 degrees, and that might be a bit optimistic for daytime highs on your Thursday. That's the coldest, and that's the low point of the bunch. We'll rebound Friday to 68, and then almost another 10 degrees on top of that by Saturday with 76, and then Sunday the 70s will stick around as well. You'll notice that Friday is the first day we expect to see any sunshine, and we'll have a 20% chance of some showers, but that will only be till about 10 a.m. After that, Friday should shape up and dry up, and then we should see clear, calm conditions over the course of your weekend. Definitely on Saturday with mostly sunny skies and temperatures climbing back up to the 70s at 76. And that's my time, not all the programming that I have. That's just pretty much a daily occurrence around here. But for now, thank you for being a part of the program. We'll see you back here for the next edition on tomorrow night. Some news and reports that we've actually been working on for some time, and we will begin to get caught up at that time. For now, enjoy your evening, stay inside, stay dry, and have a good night.